The first snow of December dusted the empty park benches like powdered sugar, but the man didn't seem to notice. He sat hunched, elbows on knees, a thin jacket pulled tight as if shame itself kept him from shivering. Across the street, warm CAFS buzzed with early evening chatter, fairy lights twinkling against the frost glass windows. People laughed over lattes while he stared at the pavement, lips pale, shoulders drawn up like he was trying to disappear. That's when she approached a girl no older than 16, her jeans threadbare at the knees, sneakers duct-taped at the sides. She clutched a crumpled blanket, rain-stained and fraying. "You look cold, mister," she whispered, voice trembling but eyes steady. You can take my blanket if you want." He looked up, startled. She was thin, cheeks flushed from the wind, but there was something proud about the way she stood, chin lifted, as if offering the only thing she owned didn't cost her a piece of herself. Her hair was a tangled mess under a knit beanie, strands sticking to her chapped lips. Behind her, on the bus stop bench, a woman in her 30s, probably her mother, sat with a swollen belly under a faded coat, hands rubbing warmth into her arms. "No, keep it," the man said, though his voice cracked from the cold. "I'm fine," but the girl wasn't convinced. She crouched to his level, setting the blanket beside him before he could protest again. The mother watched silently, face drawn and tired, like she'd seen too many refusals in her life to waste words on another. A bus roared past, spraying slush. The man flinched. Something about the way he hugged himself made the girl hesitate before asking, "You got anywhere to go tonight?" He didn't answer. That silence felt heavier than the snow gathering on the bench 2 blocks away. In a warm CAF corner with gold light spilling onto the sidewalk, a woman scrolled through her phone. Leah Ashcroft, 32. Hair the color of autumn chestnuts falling in glossy waves over a tailored black coat. Red scarf, fitted jeans, boots clicking when she crossed her legs. A corporate lawyer, single, running on caffeine and long work hours, she looked like the kind of woman who never had to pause before paying bills. Through the glass, she noticed the girl and the man outside. The way they looked like a painting no one wanted to hang shadows against neon glow. She couldn't shake it. The ray hook came when the man finally muttered, "They locked me out. Rent's late. Couple weeks now." His voice was rough, like gravel scraped the edges of his throat. The mother shifted on the bus bench, her swollen belly pressed against the coat buttons, one missing entirely. A wind gust carried the smell of fried food from the diner across the street, and the girl's stomach growled so loudly she winced. "You hungry?" Leah's voice startled them all. She'd come out without her coat buttoned, scarf catching snowflakes. The girl blinked at her boots' first polished leather, city life sleek before meeting her eyes. The CAF behind them was warm, smelling of cinnamon and espresso. Inside, people typed on laptops, music humming softly. The girl looked at her mother. The woman hesitated, pride stiff in her posture, before nodding almost imperceptibly. Inside, the contrast hit hard. Heat wrapped around them, light soft enough to make even exhaustion look gentle. The girl's hands shook around the cup of cocoa Leah ordered before even asking their names. "Why help us?" the mother asked finally, voice low, guarded. Leah shrugged, brushing hair off her shoulder. "Because I can." They talked in bits and pieces. The mother's name was Erin. Widowed 2 years ago. Factory closed last spring. Eviction notice curling on their apartment door like a cruel joke. The girl Maya sometimes skipped school to work odd shifts at a thrift store for bus money. Tonight, they had nowhere to sleep. Leah's phone buzzed with work emails she ignored. Something about Erin's cracked knuckles around the cocoa cup, about Maya's thin shoulders hunched like she carried the whole winter on her back, made everything else small. Then came the twist. The man from the bench stumbled in, eyes wild. He held the blanket Maya gave him, now soaked. "They're towing my car," he said, breathless. "All I had left. My tools are in there." His hands shook as he dug through his pockets for coins that weren't there. Outside, the tow truck lights flashed cold yellow against the snow. Leah looked from him to Erin, to Maya biting her lip till it nearly bled. Decisions pressed like weight on her chest. Leah didn't think. She grabbed her coat, nearly knocking over the chair. The CAF warmth spilled out behind her as she ran toward the tow truck. "Wait," she shouted, voice sharper than she expected. The driver, bored and unmoved, didn't even glance up as he hooked the battered car's wheels. "It's already on the list, lady," he said, shrugging against the cold. "Payment up front or it goes." Leah looked back. The man stood at the curb, fists jammed deep into his jacket, like maybe he could hold himself together by sheer force. Snow gathered on his hair, his shoulders. Maya was at his side, blanket wrapped around both of them now. Erin stayed behind, one hand on her belly. Watching like this was all too familiar. How much? Leah asked. The number hit hard. Not impossible for her, not even close, but enough to explain why the man's shoulders sagged like that. She pulled out her card with shaking fingers, the cold biting through her gloves. When the driver drove away empty, the man stared at Leah like he couldn't speak. Finally, his throat worked around the words. Why? Why would you do that for me? Leah's breath puffed white in the air. Because I can, she said softly, back inside. He'd kissed their frozen skin. The man's name was Daniel. Former mechanic. Wife left 3 years ago. 2 layoffs. Then the rent collapse. Then this. He had a brother in Arizona he hadn't spoken to since the funeral of their mother. Erin listened, eyes softening as Daniel talked. The storm outside thickened, winds whipping snow sideways. The sea of lights flickered once. Someone laughed near the counter. The normalcy a strange soundtrack to everything unraveling at their table. Leah sipped coffee she didn't taste. You have somewhere to stay tonight? She asked Erin finally. Erin's hands tightened on the cup. Shelters are full, she said. They said maybe next week. Leah thought of her apartment. Big enough for 3, technically. Clean sheets, hot shower. She pictured their faces walking in there and felt something shift in her chest. You can stay with me, she heard herself say. Erin blinked. We can't, you can. Leah interrupted, voice firm but warm. One night, just until we figure something out. Maya's eyes went wide, the cocoa cup halfway to her lips. Daniel looked between them like maybe the idea of kindness that big was foreign territory. They left together. The streets were white rivers of snow now, wind clawing at their coats. Leah drove slowly, heater blasting, the car smelling of wet wool and exhaustion. Erin sat in front, silent, while Maya dozed against the window, lips parted. In the back, Daniel held his reclaimed toolbox on his knees like it was a life raft. Leah's apartment glowed warm when they entered. Erin paused just inside the door, hand on her belly, like stepping onto a different planet. Maya stared at the kitchen bright tiles, full fridge, a bowl of oranges on the counter like something from a commercial. Bathrooms down the hall, Leah said, trying to sound casual though her throat was tight. Towels in the closet. Maya showered first. Steam drifted down the hallway. She came out in borrowed sweatpants, hair damp, looking 5 years younger without the grime of the streets clinging to her. Erin followed, moving slowly, hands steady on her belly. Daniel waited till last, shoulders tense like maybe he thought someone would revoke the offer halfway through. Later, they sat around Leah's small dining table. She'd thrown together pasta. Nothing fancy, but the way Erin closed her eyes on the first bite made Leah look away. Daniel ate like a man who hadn't had to warm meals in a row for weeks. Maya talked more now, about school, about maybe wanting to be a nurse someday. The storm outside raged, but inside there was only the clink of forks, the hum of heat through vents, the soft sound of lives thawing before they slept. Leah slipped envelopes onto the table, rent money for Erin, a prepaid card for Daniel. Nothing dramatic, just enough to shift gravity back toward hope when they found the envelopes in the morning. Erin cried silently, face in her hands. Daniel stared at the ceiling like maybe prayer was possible again. Maya hugged Leah so tight it startled her. You didn't have to, she whispered. Leah smiled, brushing hair from the girl's face. I know. Outside, the sky cleared, sun turning snow to diamonds on the sidewalks. People hurried to work, coffee cups steaming, unaware that in one small apartment, 3 lives had quietly rerouted towards something better.